There is a single tin sitting in your cupboard right now that carries more calcium than a glass of milk, more protein than 2 eggs, and costs about $1. Almost nobody over 60 eats it, and it may be the most useful food in this entire video. If you have started to notice that your grip is not what it was, that a full shopping bag feels heavier than it should, or that standing up from a low chair now takes a small push, that is muscle, and it is going quietly. After 60, your body becomes measurably worse at turning food into muscle, which means you need more protein than you did at 40, not less. Now, we have already covered beans on this channel, and beans are superb. But if your digestion cannot take them, or you simply do not want another bowl of lentils, there is an entire other half of the protein world that most people over 60 are ignoring completely. So here is what you are getting. 20 high-protein foods that are not beans and not tofu, and for each one exactly how much protein it delivers, the easiest way to eat it, and what it costs. This is general information, not medical advice, so if you are on blood thinners, have kidney trouble, or have been told to watch your salt, talk to your doctor before you change much at once. Stay for number 18, the cheapest seafood in the shop, which happens to carry more vitamin B12 than any other food on Earth. And number 19 is the tin that quietly delivers more calcium than a glass of milk because you eat the bones without ever noticing them. Number 20 is the one I opened with, and once you know what is actually in it, I think you will keep a tin in the cupboard permanently. If honest food and real research is your kind of thing, subscribe to Healing Garden, one careful video a week. And if even 2 of these make it onto your shopping list, tap like so more people over 60 find them. Number 1. Cottage Cheese, the forgotten powerhouse. A single cup carries around 25 grams of protein, which is more than 3 eggs for about $1. It is simply milk curds drained of most of their whey, one of the oldest dairy preparations there is, and it fell out of fashion in the 1990s for no reason other than diet trends moving on. Nutritionally, it never stopped being excellent. If lunch has become an afterthought, a slice of toast or a biscuit with tea, this is the fastest 25 grams of protein you can put on a plate with no cooking whatsoever. After 60, your body needs a bigger single dose of protein to trigger muscle repair than it used to, roughly 30 grams rather than 20, and skipping protein at lunch is the single most common gap I see. A bowl of this closes it in 30 seconds. Most of the protein in cottage cheese is casein, which digests slowly and releases amino acids over several hours rather than all at once. Studies looking at casein eaten in the evening have found it supports overnight muscle repair better than fast-digesting proteins, which matters because the overnight fast is the longest stretch your body goes without any protein at all. It also carries a useful amount of calcium and phosphorus. Eat it savory with black pepper, olive oil, and tomato, or sweet with fruit, and buy the plain rather than the flavored tubs, which are mostly sugar. A large tub runs about $2.50 and keeps a week. If the texture puts you off, blend it smooth and it becomes something entirely different, closer to a thick cream. The next one is a cousin of this that has been strained even harder, and it is stronger still. Number 2. Skyr, the Viking yogurt. A small pot carries about 17 grams of protein with almost no fat and half the sugar of ordinary yogurt. Technically, it is a soft cheese rather than a yogurt, strained so heavily that it takes roughly 4 cups of milk to make 1 cup of Skyr, which is exactly why the protein is so concentrated. Icelanders have been making it since the Norse settlements over 1,000 years ago. If breakfast is where your protein disappears, and most mornings are toast, cereal, or nothing, a pot of Skyr is the single easiest fix available. Spreading protein evenly across breakfast, lunch, and dinner produces measurably better muscle retention than getting it all at supper, which is how most of us eat. Breakfast is almost always the weakest meal of the 3. Because Skyr is a fermented dairy food, it arrives with live cultures as well as protein, and the straining removes most of the lactose along with the whey. That makes it noticeably easier on people who find milk troublesome, though it is not lactose-free. Research on fermented dairy and older adults has generally found favorable associations with bone density and muscle mass, though it cannot untangle the food from the diet around it. Buy plain and add your own fruit, because the flavored pots can carry as much sugar as a dessert. A single pot costs about $1.20, and larger tubs are better value at around $3. It keeps for a fortnight unopened. The next one is the German version of the same idea, and it is the cheapest high-protein dairy in most shops. Number 3, Quark, the cheap German secret. 100 grams gives you around 12 to 14 grams of protein for roughly 60 cents, which makes it one of the best value proteins in the dairy aisle. It is a fresh soured cheese, unaged and unsalted, sitting somewhere between yogurt and cream cheese in texture, but with several times the protein of either. Central and Eastern Europe have eaten it daily for centuries. If you have looked at the high-protein yogurts and quietly balked at what they charge, Quark is the same nutrition without the marketing. It sits in the same fridge, usually costs half as much, and works in exactly the same ways. When food prices are the thing standing between you and eating well, knowing the unfashionable version of a fashionable product is worth real money over a year. Quark is made by souring milk with cultures and then draining, which concentrates casein protein and calcium while leaving most of the lactose behind in the whey. Like other fermented dairy, it carries live bacteria, and the calcium comes packaged with the protein and phosphorus that bone actually needs alongside it. It is nutritionally close to cottage cheese with a smoother texture. Use it exactly where you would use sour cream or cream cheese, whisked with lemon and herbs as a dip, stirred into soup off the heat, or spread on bread. A tub costs about $1.80 and lasts a week. Look in the dairy aisle near the yogurt or in European grocers. Right after this, the drinkable one, which does something none of these three can do. Number 4, kefir, the drinkable culture. A cup carries about 10 grams of protein and, far more importantly, somewhere between 10 and 30 different strains of bacteria and yeast, several times the variety in ordinary yogurt. It began in the Caucasus Mountains, fermented in leather bags from grains that look like small cauliflower florets and are passed down through families. It is a genuinely living food. If you have been through a course of antibiotics, if your digestion has never quite settled since an illness, or if you simply feel your gut is not what it was, this is where I would start. The diversity of your gut bacteria measurably declines with age and with each round of antibiotics, and food-based cultures are the gentlest way to feed it back. It is also far cheaper than any capsule on the shelf. Kefir contains a genuinely broader range of microorganisms than yogurt because it ferments with both bacteria and yeasts, and several of those strains survive stomach acid to reach the colon. Human trials on kefir have reported improvements in lactose digestion and some markers of gut function, though the research is smaller and more scattered than the enthusiasm around it suggests. The protein and calcium, at least, are simply on the label. Drink a small glass daily rather than a large one occasionally, and start with half a cup if your gut is sensitive, because going straight to a full glass can be lively. A liter bottle costs about $3, or you can buy grains once for a few dollars and make it indefinitely from ordinary milk. The next one is a cheese, so hard and so aged that people with lactose trouble can usually eat it without a second thought. Number 5, Parmesan, the protein rock. 100 grams carries around 35 grams of protein, the highest of any common cheese, and roughly 1,200 milligrams of calcium, more than a liter of milk. Genuine Parmigiano Reggiano is aged for at least 12 months, often 24 or 36, and that long aging is what concentrates everything and creates the little crunchy crystals in an old wedge. Those crystals are tyrosine, an amino acid, crystallizing out as the protein breaks down. If dairy has started to disagree with you, this is usually the exception. During the long aging, almost all the lactose is consumed by bacteria, which is why heavily aged hard cheeses are typically tolerated by people who cannot drink a glass of milk. It also delivers enormous flavor from a very small amount, which matters when appetite and taste have both faded. Long aging partially breaks proteins down into smaller peptides and free amino acids, which makes them quicker for an aging digestive system to absorb. The calcium arrives alongside protein and phosphorus, which is the combination bone tissue is actually built from. The trade-off is salt, and Parmesan is genuinely salty, so it belongs as a seasoning rather than a snack if your blood pressure is a concern. Grate it over everything and never throw away the rind, which will give an entire pot of soup a savory depth if you simmer it for half an hour and fish it out. A wedge runs about $6 and lasts weeks in the fridge. Buy the real thing with the name stamped on the rind, not the powdered imitation. The next one is soft, mild, and the one Italian grandmothers give to anyone who is unwell. Number 6, ricotta, the gentle rebuild. Half a cup carries about 14 grams of protein in a texture soft enough that it needs no chewing at all. The name means recooked because traditionally it was made from the whey left over after making other cheeses, heated a second time to capture the proteins the first process left behind. That makes it the one cheese built almost entirely from whey protein rather than casein. If chewing is difficult, if you are recovering from dental work or an illness, or if you are caring for someone whose appetite has collapsed, this is one of the most useful foods in this video. 14 grams of protein that requires no chewing and no cooking is genuinely hard to find. Protein needs actually go up during recovery, precisely when eating is hardest, and soft foods carry disproportionate weight then. Whey protein is unusually rich in leucine, the specific amino acid that acts as the trigger switch for muscle building, and older muscle needs a higher leucine dose than young muscle to respond at all. This is well established in the sarcopenia research, and it is the reason whey-rich foods punch above their weight for anyone over 60. Ricotta delivers it in ordinary food rather than a powder. Eat it spread thick on toast with honey, stirred through hot pasta off the heat, or simply with a little salt and olive oil. A tub costs around $3 and does not keep long, so buy small. Full fat has better texture and is worth it. The next one is not a food most people think of as protein at all, and it comes from your fruit bowl's neighbor. Number 7, cashews, the creamy nut. 100 grams gives you about 18 grams of protein along with a substantial dose of magnesium, copper, and zinc. They grow in the strangest way of any nut, hanging beneath a bright red or yellow fruit called a cashew apple, one single nut per fruit, which is much of the reason they cost what they do. Brazil is their original home, though West Africa and India now grow most of them. If your grip has weakened noticeably, magnesium is worth knowing about, because it is required for muscle contraction and relaxation, and a great many people over 60 run low without ever being tested. Cashews carry a serious amount of it alongside their protein. Low magnesium is one of the quieter deficiencies of later life, and it shows up as cramps, poor sleep, and weakness long before anyone thinks to check. Cashews are among the richest common food sources of copper, which your body uses to build connective tissue and to help iron do its job, and they provide magnesium and zinc together. Nut consumption studies have consistently associated regular nut eating with better cardiovascular markers, and reviews have found no weight gain despite the calorie density. They are also softer than most nuts, which matters for older teeth. Soak them for 4 hours and blend with water, and they become a cream that will thicken any soup or sauce without dairy at all. A pound costs about $8, which is more than most nuts, so buy them in bulk bags rather than small packets. Store them in the freezer because their fat turns rancid faster than you would expect. The next one is smaller, buttery, and the traditional partner to good olive oil. Number 8, pine nuts, the pocket of fat and protein. 100 grams carries about 14 grams of protein and one of the highest magnesium contents of any nut, along with a great deal of vitamin K. They are the seeds of certain pine trees, prized individually out of the cones, which is done largely by hand and is exactly why they are the most expensive item in this video. Mediterranean and Middle Eastern kitchens have used them since antiquity. If food has begun to taste of very little and you have found yourself reaching for more salt to compensate, toasted pine nuts are one of the best answers there is. Toasting them transforms their flavor completely, and a scattering makes a plain dish taste like something. Taste and smell genuinely dull with age, and the honest solution is more flavor rather than more salt, because the salt has consequences the flavor does not. Pine nuts carry vitamin K1, which your body uses in blood clotting and which also plays a part in directing calcium within the body. They are dense in magnesium, phosphorus, and zinc, and their fat is largely unsaturated. Because they are so calorie-dense in a small volume, they are genuinely useful for anyone who needs more nutrition in less food, which describes a great many people in their 70s and 80s. Toast them in a dry pan for 2 minutes, watching constantly because they burn in seconds, then scatter over anything green. They are expensive at around $15 a pound, so treat a small bag as a seasoning rather than a snack. Keep them frozen. Right after this, the nut where a single one covers your entire daily requirement of a mineral most people have never heard of. Number 9, Brazil nuts, the one nut dose. 100 grams carries about 14 grams of protein, but the real story is selenium, because a single Brazil nut can contain an entire day's requirement and sometimes considerably more. They grow inside a woody pod the size of a coconut, high in the Amazon canopy, on trees that have never been successfully farmed in plantations because they depend on a specific wild bee to pollinate them. Every Brazil nut you have eaten came from wild forest. If your thyroid has been flagged or you bruise easily and heal slowly, selenium is a mineral worth knowing. Your thyroid holds more selenium per gram than any other tissue in your body and uses it to convert thyroid hormone into its active form. Selenium intake also declines with age in many populations because it depends heavily on the soil where food was grown. Selenium is built into a family of enzymes that neutralize oxidative damage and support thyroid function and immune response. The catch is genuinely important because selenium has a narrow window between too little and too much, and chronic excess causes hair loss, brittle nails, and nerve problems. This is one of the few foods where the correct advice is a strict limit rather than more is better. 1 or 2 nuts a day is the right dose. Not a handful, not a bowl in front of the television, 1 or 2. A small bag costs about $4 and will last you a month at that rate, which makes them one of the cheapest ways to cover a mineral. Store them in the freezer to stop the oil turning. The next one is not solid food at all, and it has been simmering on stoves for as long as there have been stoves. Number 10, bone broth, the old remedy. A cup carries around 9 to 10 grams of protein, most of it collagen, plus minerals drawn out of the bone during the long simmer. It is nothing more than bones, water, a splash of vinegar, and 8 hours or more of very low heat, and it is one of the oldest cooked foods humans have. Every food culture on Earth arrived at some version of it independently. If you are unwell, if nothing appeals, or if the thought of a meal is too much, a mug of hot broth delivers real protein and salt and minerals when solid food is impossible. This is where broth genuinely earns its reputation, not as a cure for anything, but as nutrition that goes down when nothing else will. It also rehydrates, and dehydration is one of the most common and most missed problems in older people. The protein in broth is collagen, which is not a complete protein and is low in some essential amino acids, so it should sit alongside other protein rather than replace it. What it is unusually rich in is glycine and proline, and collagen supplementation trials have reported modest improvements in joint discomfort and skin elasticity, though most of those studies use concentrated peptides rather than homemade broth. The honest position is that broth is genuinely nourishing and modestly evidenced, not miraculous. Save bones in the freezer until you have enough, then cover with water, add 2 tablespoons of vinegar to help draw out minerals, and leave a slow cooker on low overnight. It costs essentially nothing if you are already buying meat or a roast chicken. Shop-bought cartons run about $4 and vary enormously in quality, so check that protein appears on the label. The next 10 are all from the sea, starting with the mildest one there is. Number 11. Cod, the gentle introduction. 100 grams of cooked cod carries about 23 grams of protein with almost no fat at all, and it delivers a full day's worth of vitamin B12 in a single fillet. It is the fish that built economies, dried and salted so it could cross oceans, and entire wars have been fought over access to cod grounds. It is also the mildest common fish there is. If you have never really cooked fish, if the smell or the bones or the uncertainty have kept you away, cod is where to start. It is mild, it flakes cleanly, it has no small bones to speak of, and it is almost impossible to identify as fishy once it is cooked with lemon and butter. Fish intake drops sharply with age in most surveys, and unfamiliarity rather than dislike is usually the reason. Vitamin B12 matters more after 60 than at any earlier point in life because stomach acid production falls with age, and B12 requires acid to be released from food. Low B12 shows up as fatigue, pins and needles, poor balance and memory problems, and it is one of the most commonly missed deficiencies in older adults. A single portion of cod covers the daily requirement comfortably. Bake it at 200 degrees in parchment with lemon, olive oil, and dill for 12 minutes, and it is essentially impossible to ruin. Frozen cod fillets cost about $6 a pound and are frozen at sea, which often makes them fresher than the fresh counter. The next one comes in a tin, costs a fraction as much, and most kitchens already have one. Number 12. Tinned tuna, the cupboard staple. A drained tin carries about 25 grams of protein for roughly $1.20, which puts it among the cheapest complete proteins you can buy anywhere. Commercial canning began in the early 1900s, and it became a household staple within a generation because it kept indefinitely and needed no preparation. Most people have a tin in the cupboard right now and have not thought about it in months. If there are days when cooking simply is not going to happen, this is your insurance policy. A tin, a fork, and a slice of bread is 25 grams of protein in 90 seconds with no stove involved. Having 2 or 3 tins in the cupboard means that a bad day never becomes a day without protein, and consistency matters far more than perfection for holding on to muscle. There is a genuine caution here worth stating plainly. Tuna is a large predatory fish and accumulates more mercury than small fish do, so health agencies generally advise moderation rather than daily consumption. Light or skipjack tuna carries considerably less mercury than albacore or big eye, which is a simple swap that solves most of the concern. For most people, 2 or 3 tins a week is comfortably within guidance. Buy tuna in olive oil rather than brine, drain it lightly, and dress it with lemon, red onion, and parsley. Skipjack is both cheaper and lower in mercury than albacore, which is a rare case of the budget option being the better one. Right after this, the seafood that looks like a treat and is quietly one of the leanest proteins there is. Number 13. Shrimp, the lean luxury. 100 grams of cooked shrimp carries about 24 grams of protein with barely any fat and very few calories, along with selenium, iodine, and vitamin B12. They cook in about 2 minutes from raw, which is faster than almost any other protein on Earth. Frozen bags have made what was once a coastal luxury available anywhere at a reasonable price. If heavy meals sit badly in the evening and you wake up uncomfortable, Shrimp is protein without the weight. 24 grams that digests easily and does not lie on your stomach at midnight is genuinely valuable because poor sleep and heavy late meals are closely linked. It also feels like an occasion, which does more for a flagging appetite than any nutrition label. Shrimp were avoided for decades because they are high in dietary cholesterol, and that advice has since been substantially revised because dietary cholesterol turns out to have far less effect on blood cholesterol than saturated fat does for most people. They are also a good source of iodine, which your thyroid requires and which is genuinely scarce in most modern diets. Anyone with a shellfish allergy must obviously avoid them entirely. Cook them in a hot pan with garlic and olive oil for 90 seconds aside and stop the moment they curl into a C shape, because a tight O means overcooked and rubbery. Frozen raw shrimp cost about $9 a pound and thaw in cold water in 10 minutes. The next one is a freshwater fish with more omega-3 than most people realize and none of the mercury worry. Number 14, rainbow trout, the clean swap. 100 grams carries about 21 grams of protein along with a genuinely useful dose of omega-3 fats and vitamin D. Because trout are farmed in freshwater and are short-lived, they accumulate very little mercury, which puts them on almost every health agency's list of best choices. They are one of the few farmed fish that environmental groups also rate well. If you have been told to eat more fish but are wary of mercury, this is the fish that removes the dilemma entirely. You get the omega-3 benefit without the contaminant concern, and you do not have to ration it the way you would tuna. For anyone trying to follow the standard advice of 2 portions of fish a week, trout makes that simple rather than complicated. The long-chain omega-3 fats in oily fish, EPA and DHA, are structurally different from the plant omega-3 in seeds, and your body converts the plant form into these very inefficiently. Large reviews of oily fish consumption have consistently found associations with better cardiovascular outcomes, and the evidence is stronger for whole fish than for supplement capsules. Trout also carries vitamin D, which almost everyone in a northern country is short of by February. Roast a whole trout at 200 degrees for 20 minutes with lemon and thyme inside it, and the flesh lifts cleanly off the bone in 2 large fillets. Whole trout run about $7 a pound and are cheaper than fillets. Ask the fishmonger to gut it and you have nothing left to do. The next one is smaller, oilier, and Northern Europe has been smoking and pickling it for 1,000 years. Number 15, herring, the northern staple. 100 grams carries about 18 grams of protein and one of the highest vitamin D contents of any food, along with a very large dose of omega-3. Herring shoals fed and enriched Northern Europe for centuries, salted and smoked and pickled in every conceivable way, and the Hanseatic League built much of its wealth on the trade. It is now one of the most overlooked fish in the shop. If you spend most of the winter indoors, as most people over 60 in northern countries do, vitamin D is the single most likely thing you are short of. Your skin makes far less of it with age, and from October to March at northern latitudes, the sun is too low to make any at all. Herring is one of the very few foods that supplies it in a meaningful amount, rather than a token one. Vitamin D governs how well you absorb calcium, and low levels are consistently associated with reduced bone density, muscle weakness, and increased fall risk in older adults. Trials of vitamin D on falls have been genuinely mixed, which is why the honest statement is that adequacy matters rather than that supplements fix everything. Food sources are limited enough that oily fish does real work here. Buy it pickled in jars from the chilled section, or smoked as kippers, and eat it with rye bread and soured cream in the Scandinavian way. A jar costs about $4 and keeps for weeks unopened. If the sharp pickle is too much, look for the ones in a milder cream sauce. The next one is even smaller, even saltier, and it will change how you cook everything else. Number 16. Anchovies, the flavor bomb. 100 grams carries an enormous 29 grams of protein, one of the highest figures of any food in this video, along with calcium from the tiny bones and a serious dose of omega-3. The Romans built an entire condiment industry on fermented anchovy, called garum, and it was traded across the whole empire. Almost every savory dish you love in Mediterranean cooking has one dissolved in it somewhere. If your food has begun to taste flat and you are compensating with the salt shaker, one anchovy melted into the pan does more than a teaspoon of salt while adding protein and minerals rather than just sodium. This is the single most useful cooking trick in this video for anyone whose sense of taste has faded. It disappears entirely, leaving only depth behind, and nobody will know it is there. Anchovies are extremely high in natural glutamates, the compounds responsible for savory depth, which is why they amplify flavor rather than tasting fishy when cooked into a dish. Because they are small and short-lived, they sit at the bottom of the food chain and carry very little mercury. They are genuinely salty, so if you have been told to reduce sodium, use them as a replacement for salt rather than in addition to it. Melt 1 or 2 fillets into warm oil with garlic at the start of any tomato sauce, soup, or braise, and they will disappear completely within a minute. A jar costs about $4 and lasts months in the fridge under oil. The ones packed in salt are better than those in oil if you can find them, though they need rinsing. Right after this, the fish that people over 60 should probably eat most often and eat least often. Number 17, mackerel, the underrated oily fish. 100 grams carries about 19 grams of protein and one of the highest omega-3 contents of any fish you can buy, well above salmon in most measurements. It is also among the cheapest fish in the shop because it is abundant, it does not keep well fresh, and it has an assertive flavor that put a generation off. Tinned mackerel solves every one of those problems. If you are buying fish oil capsules every month, a tin of mackerel gives you more omega-3 than a day's dose for about $1, along with 20 grams of protein the capsules do not provide. The research consistently finds stronger results for eating oily fish than for taking the isolated oil, which suggests the whole food matters. 2 tins a week costs less than a single bottle of capsules. Mackerel is exceptionally rich in EPA and DHA, the 2 long-chain omega-3 fats involved in regulating inflammation and in the structure of brain and eye tissue. Reviews of dietary patterns high in oily fish consistently associate them with better cardiovascular and cognitive markers in older adults, though the evidence is observational and diet as a whole is always the confounder. Like herring, it also carries vitamin D and B12. Buy it tinned in olive oil or tomato sauce for about $1.50, flake it onto toast with lemon and black pepper, and eat it cold straight from the tin if you like. Fresh mackerel must be very fresh, so if it does not smell clean and of the sea, leave it. The next one is the cheapest thing at the fish counter and carries more of one vitamin than any other food on the planet. Number 18, mussels, the cheapest seafood, and this is the one I promised you at the start. 100 grams of cooked mussels carries about 24 grams of protein and an astonishing amount of vitamin B12, several times your entire daily requirement in one modest serving, more than any other food on Earth. They also deliver more iron than red meat, gram for gram. They are farmed on ropes, need no feeding at all, and are among the most sustainable animal foods there is. If you are tired in a way that sleep does not fix, if you feel the cold more than everyone around you, or if your balance has become less certain, both iron and B12 are worth testing for. Absorption of both falls with age because your stomach makes less acid, so the amount in the food has to be generous to compensate. Very few foods deliver both together in these quantities. B12 deficiency in older adults is common, frequently missed, and genuinely serious because prolonged low levels can cause nerve damage that does not fully reverse even after treatment. It shows up as fatigue, tingling in the hands and feet, unsteadiness and memory changes, and it is often mistaken for ordinary aging. Mussels also carry selenium, zinc, and manganese in the same mouthful. Steam them in a covered pot with garlic, wine, and parsley for 4 minutes until they open, and throw away any that stay firmly shut. A kilo costs about $5 and feeds 2 generously, which makes this the best value protein in this entire video. Buy them alive and cook them the same day. The next one is the tin I opened this video with, and there is one detail about it that changes everything. Number 19, tinned salmon. The bones you never notice, and this is the one I teased at the beginning. 100 grams carries about 22 grams of protein, and because the bones are canned in and softened by the pressure, roughly 240 milligrams of calcium, which is more than a glass of milk. The bones become so soft they crush between your fingers and dissolve completely into the flesh. Nobody who eats it ever notices them. If you have been told your bone density is falling and you cannot manage much dairy, this tin quietly solves the problem. It delivers calcium, protein, and vitamin D in a single food, and those 3 are exactly what bone tissue is built and maintained with. Very few foods offer all 3 together, and this one costs about $2 and needs no cooking. Bone is roughly half protein by weight, which is why calcium alone has never been the whole answer, and vitamin D governs how much of that calcium you actually absorb. Research on older adults has repeatedly found that adequate protein intake alongside calcium is associated with better bone density, and that low protein undermines calcium supplementation. Tinned salmon happens to deliver the combination that the research keeps pointing at. Mash the whole contents, bones included, with a fork until they disappear, then use it in fish cakes, on toast, or fold it into pasta. Look for the tins that say bone-in or traditional rather than boneless, skinless, because the boneless ones remove the entire benefit. Pink salmon is cheaper than red and nutritionally near enough identical. And now the last one, which does everything this tin does and costs even less. Number 20, sardines, the complete tin. And this is where we started. 100 grams carries about 25 grams of protein, roughly 380 milligrams of calcium from the soft edible bones, a substantial dose of vitamin D, and one of the highest omega-3 contents of any food, all for about $1. There is no other single food in this video that delivers protein, calcium, vitamin D, and omega-3 together in one place. They are named after Sardinia, where the shoals were once so thick you could scoop them from the shore. If you take away one thing from this video, make it this tin. It addresses muscle, bone, heart, and brain in a single mouthful. It requires no cooking, no fridge until opened, and no skill at all. For anyone over 60 living on a fixed income, there is genuinely nothing else in a supermarket that does this much for $1. Because sardines are small and short-lived, they sit near the bottom of the food chain, so they accumulate very little mercury, which is why every health agency lists them among the safest fish to eat frequently. They carry the same long-chain omega-3 fats as salmon at a fraction of the price, and the softened bones supply calcium in a form your body absorbs well. One genuine caution, they are moderately high in purines, so if you have gout, keep them occasional rather than daily. Eat them straight from the tin on toast with lemon and black pepper, or mash them into pasta with garlic and parsley. Buy the ones in olive oil rather than sunflower oil, and eat the bones, because that is the entire point. A tin costs between $1 and $2, keeps for years in a cupboard, and is the single best value food in this video. So there they are, 20 high-protein foods with not a bean or a block of tofu among them. Look back across the list and one pattern is impossible to miss. The cheapest items were consistently the best ones. Mussels, sardines, tinned mackerel, cottage cheese, and Quark all beat the expensive options on protein per dollar, and the 2 most nutritionally remarkable foods in the whole video, mussels and sardines, are also the two cheapest. If you do nothing else after watching this, buy two things this week. A tin of sardines for about $1, which covers protein, calcium, vitamin D, and omega-3 in one go. And a tub of cottage cheese for about $2, which gives you 25 grams of protein at lunch with no cooking at all. Those two purchases will do more for your muscle and your bones than any supplement you could buy for 20 times the price. And once more, because it matters. This is general information, not medical advice. Fish and dairy are ordinary food for almost everyone, but if you take blood thinners, have gout, manage kidney disease, have a shellfish allergy, or have been told to limit sodium, please take these to your doctor before making big changes. Go gradually and let your appetite lead. Tell me in the comments which one surprised you most. And if there is a tinned fish your family ate that I left out, name it. Because half the best food advice I have ever had came from somebody's grandmother. If you found this useful, subscribe to Healing Garden. One well-researched video a week, no miracle claims, no fear. Next week we go back to the plant side, 20 ancient grains and seeds that keep you strong after 50, including one that was feeding people 3,000 years before wheat arrived and carries more protein than any grain on your shelf today. Until then, eat well and look after yourself.